Hello and welcome to Too Much Information, Maximizing Student Learning While Minimizing Cognitive Load. The series of videos on cognitive load are brought to you by Teaching Support at umn.edu, specifically by Christina Peterson from the Center for Educational Innovation and myself, Sarah Shane from Academic Technology Support Services. During this video, I'll specifically be covering working memory, long-term memory, and how that all relates to cognitive load. So TMI, too much information. I'm assuming this is an abbreviation you've heard of, if not used. I can't tell you the origins, but I can tell you its use has grown. From saying TMI from when you've heard too much private information you don't really want to hear, to responding to emails that are way too long and asking for it to be condensed, it's a clear concept. TMI is something we don't like or want to experience, and for this video is being used to refer to cognitive overload, but we'll get to that. So let's think about our class and what our students are experiencing. Whether it's face-to-face and they're taking notes or it's online, imagine what your students are going through if they are in the process of trying to make sense of information you are giving them. Lecture, video, readings, whatever it is. So your question is, what are they doing when they are trying to make sense of your content? Students can be doing anything, hopefully paying attention to the person talking. They will be taking notes. They're formulating questions. They wonder why this is relevant. Oftentimes they think about how this content relates to what they already know, and they relate what is currently being said to what was said earlier. This is actually a lot for our ideal student to do. We know we want students to take away as much as possible from class, but sometimes it is just TMI. So what can you do to help your students do better with all of this? And what can you do with keeping the limitations of memory in mind? So let's talk a bit about the two types of memory, long-term memory and working memory. Long-term memory allows us to remember information for longer periods of time, anything more than a few minutes. Information is stored here as a series of connected information. How well we remember things an hour or a week or a year after we learned it depends on how well the information is connected to the other things we know. In theory, it is unlimited connected knowledge. Another memory system is called working memory, and that's the system we use for remembering information for short periods of time, and that underlies our ability to manipulate information in real time. So for example, if you're trying to calculate 277 plus 34, your working memory is what allows you to imagine that in your head and carry the 1 as you figure it out. Importantly for this video is that this is the system students are using to track and make sense of information during class. This does have a limited capacity. So the important thing to know about working memory is that unlike our long-term memory, this system is limited. You can think of it as a cup. It can only hold so much or process so much at once. If it fills up too fast, or even if it fills up slowly, it gets full, and then it starts to overflow. And then the information gets lost. In many ways, it's like you didn't even teach it. Once it's gotten full and starts to overflow, this is where we hit TMI. So the magic questions around this typically are, how much can our working memory hold? When is it too full that we start to lose information? And naturally, our answer is, it depends. It depends on whether it's a good or bad concentration day for the brain, whether we've got enough sleep, whether we're able to organize and make sense of our information coming in, whether we're learning in our native language, and if we can connect the stuff we already know to what we're learning right now. But if you like a hard and fast number, the magic number for working memory is typically 4. 4 new concepts, 4 big chunks of information. During a task, how many ideas or pieces of information are we juggling? So keep in mind that this magic number of 4 is not just limited to a presentation or lecture. It also applies to tasks we ask our students to work on and materials we ask them to engage with. Often when we ask students to work on something, we don't consider how many pieces of information we're asking them to manipulate at the same time. And this is another place where overload can occur. If they've used up all their working memory on just information, there isn't space to manipulate or focus on a new process. What are some strategies to prevent overload? We'll go into these in more details in the other videos. But basically, prioritize what you want your students to learn, provide navigation throughout the class, and provide guidance for consolidation of information. So prioritize, navigate, and consolidate. These are the three main things to keep in mind.